The morning of June 15th, 2047 began like any other morning on Earth. Children walked to school, workers filled the trains, coffee shops opened their doors. Nobody looked at the sky. Nobody knew that in less than 1 hour, their world would end. The first sign came at 8:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Every satellite around Earth went dark at the same moment. Television screens turned to static. Phone calls dropped. The internet died. For 3 minutes, humanity experienced complete silence. Then the sky began to burn. Massive ships appeared above every major city on Earth. They were black and shaped like twisted spears. Each one stretched for miles across. They blocked out the sun and cast shadows over millions of people who stood frozen in the streets, looking up with fear in their hearts. The ships did not wait. They did not ask questions. They simply opened fire. Beams of bright blue light struck the ground. Where they touched, everything turned to ash. Buildings melted like ice in summer. Roads became rivers of liquid rock. People did not even have time to scream. They simply ceased to exist. New York was the first to fall, then London, then Tokyo, Beijing, Mumbai, Cairo, and Sao Paulo. One by one, the great cities of Earth were erased from existence. The attacks took less than 2 hours. When they stopped, 2 billion human beings were dead. Admiral Chen Wei-lin was not on Earth when the attack began. She commanded the United Earth Defense Force from a station near Mars. When the reports came in, she did not believe them at first. Alien attack? It sounded like a bad movie, but the images did not lie. She watched her home city of Shanghai disappear in blue fire. Her mother lived there, her 2 sisters, her nephew who was only 4 years old. Chen did not cry. There would be time for tears later. Right now, she needed to think. "Get me every ship we have," she ordered. "Every shuttle, every cargo vessel, everything that can fly and fight. I want them hidden in the asteroid belt within 48 hours. Her officers looked at her with confusion. "Hidden, Admiral? Should we not attack?" Chen shook her head. "Look at those ships. We have nothing that can scratch them. If we attack now, we die for nothing. We hide. We watch. We learn. And when we are ready, we make them pay for every life they took." On Earth, the survivors crawled from the ruins. Dr. Amara Okonkwo was one of them. She had been working in her underground laboratory in Kenya when the attack came. The facility was built to survive nuclear war. It survived this too. When she climbed to the surface, she saw a world transformed. The sky was gray with ash. Fires burned on every horizon. The air smelled of death and melted metal. But she also saw something else, a crashed object in a nearby field. It was small, about the size of a car, and it was clearly not from Earth. Amara approached it carefully. The object was some kind of probe or drone. It was damaged but mostly intact. Strange symbols covered its surface. Light still blinked weakly inside it. "This is their technology," she whispered to herself. "If I can understand it, maybe we can fight back." She called for help. Within hours, a team of scientists had moved the probe to her underground lab. They began to study it with desperate focus. The alien ships remained in orbit around Earth. They made no move to land. They simply watched and waited. Then, exactly 24 hours after the attack, they sent a message. Every working radio and television on Earth received it. The message was in hundreds of human languages at once. The aliens had clearly studied humanity for some time. Their words were cold and simple. "We are the Valkyrie Dominion. We have ruled this region of space for 10,000 years. Your world now belongs to us. You will submit to our rule. You will serve us as our slaves. You will give us your resources, your labor, and your obedience. If you do not submit within 1 rotation of your planet, we will resume our cleansing. This is not a request. This is your reality. Accept it." The message ended. Silence followed. Around the world, the survivors looked at each other. Some wept. Some prayed. Some simply sat in shock, unable to process what had happened to their world. In military bunkers across the planet, the remaining leaders of Earth gathered in virtual meetings. They argued about what to do. Some wanted to surrender immediately. "We cannot fight this," they said. "We must save who we can." Others wanted to launch nuclear weapons at the alien ships. "We die on our feet, not on our knees," they argued. But it was Admiral Chen who made them all quiet. Listen to me, she said. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute certainty. These aliens have made a mistake. They think we are like other species they have conquered. They think we will break. They think we will bow. But they do not know humans. She paused and looked at the faces on her screen. Presidents and generals, scientists and soldiers, all of them waiting for hope. We will not surrender, Chen continued. We will not attack blindly. We will do something they do not expect. We will go silent. We will let them think we are broken. And in that silence, we will prepare. We will learn their technology. We will build new weapons. We will train our people. And when the time is right, we will teach them what happens when you strike Earth first. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not respond to the Valkyrie message. No surrender, no defiance, just silence. The Valkyrie waited for Earth's answer. Hours passed. Then a full day. Nothing came. No white flags. No begging for mercy. Just quiet. On the command ship, the Valkyrie fleet master looked at the blue planet below with something close to confusion. This had never happened before. Every species they attacked had either surrendered immediately or launched desperate attacks. This silence was new. Perhaps their communication systems are destroyed, one officer suggested. The fleet master considered this. Perhaps. Give them more time. They will learn their place eventually. All species do. But deep below the Earth's surface, in 100 hidden facilities, humanity was already working. Scientists studied the alien probe. Engineers began designing new weapons. Factories were built in mines and caves. Soldiers trained in underground bunkers. The Valkyrie had given humanity 24 hours to surrender. Humanity would use that silence to prepare for war. They would take months. They would take years if needed. And when they finally answered the Valkyrie's message, it would not be with words. It would be with fire. 6 months had passed since the sky burned. The Valkyrie still circled Earth like vultures waiting for a dying animal to stop moving. They had expected surrender within days. When it did not come, they expected it within weeks. Now, after 6 months of silence, they felt something they had not felt in centuries. Confusion. Fleet Master Vorath stood on the bridge of his command ship and stared at the planet below. Earth was quiet, too quiet. His sensors showed humans moving on the surface, rebuilding small settlements, farming the land that was not poisoned. But there were no military signals, no communications between nations, no signs of any organized resistance. They have accepted their fate, his second officer said. They are simply too broken to formally surrender. Vorath was not so sure. He had conquered many species in his long life. The broken ones always sent messages. They begged. They offered their leaders as sacrifices. They did anything to stop the killing. These humans did none of that. They just went silent. Increase surveillance, Vorath ordered. I want to see everything they do. But there was very little to see on the surface. The Valkyrie did not know that the real activity was happening far below their sight. 1,000 meters beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Chen walked through the largest military facility ever built by human hands. It stretched for 50 kilometers in every direction. Factories, training centers, laboratories, and living quarters for 200,000 people filled the underground city. And this was only one of dozens of similar facilities around the world. Production report, Chen said to the officer walking beside her. 300 new fighters completed this week, Admiral. 50 destroyers, 12 capital ships. Chen nodded. It was not enough. It would never feel like enough. But it was progress. In another section of the facility, Dr. Amara Okonkwo was making the kind of progress that would change everything. She and her team had spent 6 months studying the captured Valkyrie probe. They had learned to read the alien language. They had mapped the alien technology. And 3 weeks ago, they had discovered something wonderful. Their shields have a weakness, Amara explained to a room full of military officers. She pointed to diagrams on a large screen. The Valkyrie use energy shields that can stop almost any weapon, lasers, missiles, even nuclear explosions. The shields adapt to whatever attacks them, but adaptation takes time, about 3 seconds. She pressed a button and new images appeared. If we hit them with weapons that change frequency faster than 3 seconds, their shields cannot keep up. They fail. The ships become vulnerable. A general leaned forward. Can we build such weapons? Amara smiled. It was the first time she had smiled in 6 months. We already have. We call them frequency cascade cannons. They fire energy pulses that shift through thousands of frequencies per second. Velkari shields cannot adapt. They simply collapse. The room erupted in excited conversation. For the first time since the attack, hope felt real. Meanwhile, in the cold darkness of the asteroid belt, humanity's secret fleet was growing. Admiral Chen had ordered every surviving ship to hide among the rocks and dust. Over 6 months, that small fleet had grown into something impressive. Ships were built in secret facilities on asteroids. Materials were mined from the rocks themselves. Human innovation, born from desperation, created new technologies every week. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka was one of the pilots who called the asteroid belt home. She had lost her entire family in the attack on Tokyo. Now she lived for only one thing: revenge. Volunteer mission, her commander announced one day. We need someone to fly close to the Velkari fleet. Get detailed scans of their ships. Find their homeworld's location. The chances of coming back are very small. 20 pilots volunteered. Tanaka was chosen. She flew a tiny scout ship, painted black and running on minimal power to avoid detection. For 2 weeks, she drifted through space, getting closer to the Velkari fleet with each passing day. She recorded everything: ship designs, weapon placements, communication patterns, and finally, from an intercepted transmission, the coordinates of the Velkari homeworld. Against all odds, she made it back. You are either the luckiest pilot in history or the best, Admiral Chen told her. Perhaps both. Just angry, Admiral, Tanaka replied. Very, very angry. The information Tanaka brought back painted a picture of the enemy. The Velkari Dominion had ruled their region of space for 10,000 years. They had conquered over 100 species. They had never lost a war. They kept conquered species as slaves, forcing them to work in mines and factories, feeding the endless hunger of the Dominion. The Velkari saw themselves as the natural rulers of all life. Other species existed only to serve them. Humanity was just the latest addition to their collection, or so they believed. They are old, Amara observed during a strategy meeting. Their technology has not changed in centuries. They do not innovate. They do not adapt. Why would they? Nothing has ever challenged them. Until now, Chen said quietly. The months continued to pass. On Earth's surface, humans lived simple lives under the watchful eyes of Velkari surveillance drones. They farmed. They rebuilt. They showed no signs of military activity. It was all a performance. The real work happened underground and in space. Weapons were tested on distant asteroids. Soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat. Pilots flew thousands of practice missions. Every human who could contribute to the war effort did so. Those who could not fight built ships, grew food, or cared for children. For the first time in history, all of humanity was united. There were no more nations, no more borders, no more old arguments about religion or politics. There was only one identity now, human, and one goal, survival. 1 year after the attack, Admiral Chen gathered her senior commanders in a virtual meeting room. Holographic images showed the entire human fleet, 12,000 warships, from small fighters to massive battlecruisers. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. The Velkari think we are broken, Chen said. They have waited for our surrender. They have grown comfortable, lazy, certain of their victory. That certainty will be their death. She activated another display. It showed the Velkari fleet above Earth, still circling, still waiting. In 3 months, we launch Operation Reciprocity. We will destroy the fleet above Earth. We will capture their faster-than-light technology, and then we will take the war to them. A commander raised his hand. What about the aliens on our world? The surveillance drones, the ground forces they might send. Ground forces require ships to deliver them, Chen replied coldly. When their fleet burns, their forces have nowhere to go. Earth will be free. She looked at each face on the screen. Men and women from every part of the world, united. Ready. They wanted to teach us our place in the universe, Chen said. We are going to teach them theirs. Somewhere above Earth, Fleet Master Vorath watched the quiet planet and felt a strange unease. Something was wrong. He could not explain it, but deep in his ancient bones, he sensed danger. He dismissed the feeling. After all, the Velkari had ruled for 10,000 years. What could these primitive humans possibly do? He would learn the answer soon enough. The Velkari occupation fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Neptune. They numbered 500 ships, enough to crush any resistance and begin the proper harvesting of Earth. Fleet Master Vorath had decided that 18 months was enough waiting. If the humans would not surrender with words, they would surrender when Velkari soldiers marched through their streets. "Begin approach to Earth," Vorath commanded. Standard conquest formation. His fleet arranged itself into the pattern they had used 1,000 times before. Heavy warships in the center, support vessels on the flanks, troop transports protected in the rear. It was perfect. It was unbeatable. It had never failed. It was about to fail spectacularly. As the Velkari fleet passed the orbit of Uranus, Admiral Chen received the signal she had been waiting for. "Enemy fleet detected. 500 ships, moving toward Earth." Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Signal all Ghost Fleet units. Execute Operation Reciprocity." Across the solar system, hidden among asteroids and moons in the dark spaces between planets, human ships came alive. Engines that had been cold for months ignited. Weapons that had never been fired powered up. 12,000 vessels began to move. The Velkari detected the energy signatures too late. "Fleet Master, we are detecting multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid belt." Vorath turned to the sensor display. His eyes widened. "How many contacts?" "Thousands, Fleet Master. They are everywhere." The first wave of human ships appeared like ghosts from the darkness. They were not elegant. They were not beautiful. They were brutal machines built for one purpose: killing Velkari. "All ships, raise shields," Vorath commanded. "Destroy these insects." The Velkari fleet opened fire. Blue energy beams lanced through space, the same weapons that had destroyed Earth's cities. Several human ships exploded, but the humans did not stop. They did not retreat. They kept coming, and then they fired back. The frequency cascade cannons worked exactly as Dr. Okonkwo had promised. The first Velkari destroyer took a direct hit. For a moment its shields flickered, trying to adapt to the rapidly shifting energy frequencies. Then they collapsed completely. A second shot tore through the unprotected hull. The ship exploded in a ball of blue and orange fire. In the first 10 minutes of the battle, humans destroyed 50 Velkari ships. The Velkari destroyed only 20 human vessels. For an empire that had never lost, this was unthinkable. "Their weapons bypass our shields," a Velkari officer screamed. "We have no defense." Vorath stood frozen. This could not be happening. These were primitives. They had no technology, no experience, no understanding of real war. How were they winning? The answer was simple. Humans did not fight like other species. When a Velkari ship was damaged, it retreated. When a human ship was damaged, it accelerated. Pilots flew their crippled vessels directly into enemy ships, turning themselves into living missiles. Captains gave orders to ram when their weapons failed. Soldiers fought to the last breath, the last bullet, the last heartbeat. Commander Alexei Volkov commanded the destroyer Moscow's Revenge. His ship had taken heavy damage early in the battle. His weapons were gone. His engines were failing. By Velkari standards, the fight was over. Time to escape. Volkov had different ideas. Navigation, plot a collision course with the Velkari flagship. His crew looked at him. They knew what he was asking. They also knew why. "Course plotted, Commander." "All hands," Volkov announced over the ship's speakers. "This is your captain. We have one more mission. Those bastards killed our families, our cities, our world. Now we make them pay. It has been an honor to serve with you. For Earth." "For Earth!" the crew shouted back. The Moscow's Revenge accelerated toward the Velkari flagship, Eternal Dominion. Velkari weapons fired desperately, but the human ship was too fast, too close. It struck the flagship's engine section at full speed. The explosion was visible from Earth. Vorath survived only because he was on the bridge, far from the impact point, but his ship was crippled. The great Eternal Dominion drifted powerless through space. We need to retreat, his second officer said. We cannot win this battle. Vorth could not believe what he was hearing. Retreat? The Velkari had never retreated. In 10,000 years, they had never run from any enemy. But watching his fleet burn around him, Vorth understood that 10,000 years of victory had just ended. All ships, he transmitted, his voice hollow with shock. Jump to hyperspace. Return to homeworld. We must warn the Dominion. Of the 500 Velkari ships that entered the solar system, only 112 escaped. The rest burned in the darkness between planets, monuments to human fury. On the human side, losses were heavy. 3,000 ships destroyed, 40,000 lives lost. But the survivors did not mourn. They were too busy capturing prizes. Velkari ships that were disabled, but not destroyed, were boarded by human marines. The fighting inside was brutal and short. Humans had spent 18 months training for exactly this moment. They knew every weakness, every blind spot, every flaw in Velkari combat doctrine. By the end of the day, humanity had captured 28 Velkari ships, including their faster-than-light drives. Dr. Okonkwo led the team that studied the captured technology. Within a week, she had understood the basic principles. Within a month, human engineers had built their own version. Within 3 months, they had improved it, making human ships faster than anything the Velkari had ever created. Admiral Chen visited the captured flagship, now renamed Humanity's Answer. She walked through corridors designed for alien bodies, past stains of alien blood, to the bridge where Vorth had commanded his fleet. Send a message to Earth, she ordered. Tell them the sky is clear. Tell them we won. On Earth, the message arrived like sunrise after a long night. People emerged from underground shelters and looked up at a sky free of alien ships for the first time in 18 months. They wept, they cheered, they held each other and spoke the names of those they had lost. But Admiral Chen was not ready to celebrate. She called a meeting of her senior commanders. We won a battle, she said. The war is just beginning. Those ships that escaped will warn the Velkari homeworld. They will send everything they have. If we wait here, they will come with a fleet we cannot defeat. What do you suggest, Admiral? A general asked. Chen activated a star map. A single point glowed red in the display. The Velkari homeworld. We do not wait. We do not defend. We attack. We take the war to their territory. We free the species they have enslaved. We burn their shipyards and destroy their ability to make war. We do not stop until they can never threaten Earth again. The room was silent. What Chen was proposing was the largest military campaign in human history. They would be fighting across light years of space against an empire that had existed for 10,000 years. Lieutenant Tanaka, now promoted to squadron leader, spoke first. When do we leave? Chen looked at her young pilot, then at the faces around the room. She saw no fear, only determination. 3 months. We need to build more ships, train more pilots, repair our fleet. Then we go. She stood at the window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velkari were preparing their response. Somewhere out there, enslaved species waited for freedom they had stopped believing was possible. They struck Earth first, Chen said quietly. Humanity will strike last. The United Earth Expeditionary Force jumped into Velkari space 3 years after the first attack on Earth. 8,000 warships emerged from hyperspace near the border of the Dominion. It was the largest fleet ever assembled by any species in recorded galactic history, and it carried a fury that the galaxy had never witnessed. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Remember Earth. Through the view screen, she could see the first Velkari colony world. It was a mining planet, worked by slave labor from a dozen conquered species. Open a channel, she ordered. All frequencies. A communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Chen spoke slowly and clearly, knowing her words would echo across this entire region of space. This is Admiral Chen Wei-Lin of the United Earth Expeditionary Force. We are here to deliver a message to the Velkari Dominion. You attacked our world without warning. You murdered billions of our people. You expected us to submit. You were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. To the Velkari, we offer only war. To the enslaved species of this region, we offer something else. We offer freedom. Any being who fights against the Dominion will be protected. Any world that rises against its masters will be defended. The age of Valkyrie rule is ending. A new age is beginning. She cut the channel. All ships, she commanded, begin the liberation. The battle for the mining world lasted only hours. The Valkyrie garrison was small and unprepared for the overwhelming force that fell upon them. Human Marines landed on the surface and fought through the slave compounds, breaking chains and opening cages. The slaves could not believe what they were seeing. For generations they had known only cruelty. Now strange beings with soft skin and fierce eyes were setting them free. One slave, a tall creature with 4 arms and blue skin, approached a human soldier. "Why?" it asked in broken Valkyrie, the only common language. "Why do you help us?" The soldier, a young woman named Private Maria Santos, looked at the scars on the slave's back. She thought of her brother, who had died in the attack on Earth. She thought of why she was here. "Because nobody helped us," she said. "Because we know what it feels like. Because it is the right thing to do." Word of Earth's arrival spread through the Dominion like fire. Slave species that had been broken for centuries began to whisper a new word: hope. Admiral Chen understood that military power alone could not defeat the Valkyrie. The Dominion was too large, too established, too deeply rooted in the fabric of galactic power. But its strength was also its weakness. The Valkyrie had built their empire on the backs of slaves. Without that labor force, their economy would collapse. "We will not just conquer," Chen told her commanders. "We will liberate. Every world we take, every species we free, becomes our ally. The Valkyrie built their power by taking from others. We will build ours by giving." It was a strategy that had never been tried on this scale, and it worked beyond anyone's imagination. The Karathi were first. They were small creatures, barely half the height of humans, but brilliant engineers. The Valkyrie had forced them to build ships for 1,000 years. When human soldiers freed their homeworld, the Karathi immediately offered their skills to the cause. "You freed us," their leader said to Admiral Chen. "We will build you a fleet worthy of your courage." Then came the Thessari, massive beings with thick hide and incredible strength. They had been used as soldiers by the Valkyrie, forced to fight other enslaved species. When humans arrived, the Thessari turned on their masters with centuries of stored rage. One by one, species joined the growing coalition. Some contributed ships, some contributed technology, some simply contributed their unbreakable will to be free. Together, they called themselves the Liberation Alliance. Dr. Amara Okonkwo had traveled with the fleet. She was no longer just a scientist. She had become humanity's voice, the face of Earth to 100 strange species. She learned their languages, understood their cultures, and helped them see that humans were not just another conqueror. "We did not choose this war," she told a gathering of newly freed species. "We did not want this power. But we learned that the universe is not kind to the weak. We learned that survival must be fought for. And we learned that freedom is worth any price." The gathered beings, so different in form but united in suffering, listened to her words with growing fire in their hearts. It was during the liberation of a Valkyrie research station that Amara discovered the darkest secret of the Dominion. Deep in the station's lower levels, she found a chamber of horrors. The walls were lined with preserved neural tissue. Thousands of samples, carefully labeled and stored. Each sample came from the brain of a conquered species leader. Each label recorded a name, a world, a date of conquest. The Valkyrie consumed the brains of their enemies. They believed it transferred strength and wisdom. For 10,000 years, they had built a collection of murdered minds. "They are monsters," a Karathi scientist whispered, standing beside Amara in the terrible room. "Worse than anything in our oldest nightmares." Amara looked at a recent addition to the collection. The label read, "Human, Earth." It contained samples from world leaders killed in the first attack. Somewhere in this room was what remained of presidents, prime ministers, and generals. "Yes," she said quietly, "they are monsters, and we are going to end them." The war raged for 2 years. Human and allied forces pushed deeper into Valkyrie territory. They captured shipyards and destroyed them. They freed slave worlds and armed them. They cut supply lines and burned military bases. Squadron leader Tanaka led the assault on the Valkyries' primary shipyard, a massive structure orbiting their second-largest colony. The battle was brutal. Valkyrie defenders fought with desperate fury, knowing that losing the shipyard meant losing their ability to rebuild their fleet. Tanaka flew like death itself, her fighter weaving through enemy fire with impossible precision. She had lost count of her kills long ago. Each explosion was for someone who had died on Earth. Her parents, her sister, her friends. She carried their memory in her heart and their vengeance in her weapons. When the shipyard finally exploded, turning into an artificial sun that lit the sky of the planet below, Tanaka felt nothing. There was no satisfaction, no joy, just the grim knowledge that the work was not yet done. The Valkyrie High Dominarch, ruler of the Empire, finally sent a message to Admiral Chen. He offered terms. If humanity withdrew to Earth and accepted status as a tributary species, the war would end. No more killing, no more destruction, just submission. Chen read the message to her commanders. They laughed without humor. My response will be broadcast across the galaxy, Chen said. Every species, free or enslaved, will hear it. She composed her reply carefully. To the High Dominarch of the Valkyrie, you offer us submission. You expect us to return to our world and wait for your mercy. You have learned nothing. 3 years ago, you killed billions of our people. You thought we would break. We did not. You thought we would surrender. We did not. You thought you could make us slaves. You were wrong. We are coming for your homeworld. We are coming for your throne. We are coming for you. And when we arrive, we will teach you what humanity does to those who threaten our children, our world, and our future. You struck first. We will strike last. She ended the message and looked at her officers. Set course for the Valkyrie homeworld. Maximum speed. The final battle was coming. The Valkyrie homeworld burned beneath an alien sky. For the first time in 10,000 years, enemy soldiers walked on the sacred ground of the Dominion's capital. For the first time in their long history, the Valkyrie knew defeat. Admiral Chen stood at the edge of a great plaza, watching her soldiers secure the area. The buildings around her were ancient, built when humans were still living in caves. They were beautiful in their alien way, covered in carvings that told stories of conquest after conquest. Now they were cracked and burning. The final battle had lasted 3 days. The Valkyrie had defended their homeworld with everything they had left, but it was not enough. The Liberation Alliance fleet outnumbered them 10-1. Ships from 100 species fought side by side with human vessels. The Valkyrie, who had stood alone for millennia, were crushed by the united force of all those they had wronged. Squadron leader Tanaka had led the final assault on the orbital defense stations. She had lost half her squadron in the fighting, but she had also destroyed the last Valkyrie fleet, the last hope of the Dominion. It's over, she reported to Admiral Chen, her voice tired but steady. Their fleet is gone. Their stations are gone. The planet is defenseless. Chen had given the order to begin landing operations. Now standing in the heart of the Valkyrie capital, she watched history being written. Human soldiers, side by side with Karathi engineers and Thessari warriors and a dozen other species, moved through the streets. They were not here to destroy. They were here to ensure that destruction would never again flow from this world. The High Dominarch was captured trying to flee the palace. He was ancient by Valkyrie standards. His scales faded and cracked with age. He had ruled the Dominion for 200 years. He had ordered the conquest of dozens of worlds. He had watched, satisfied, as Earth burned. Now he knelt before Admiral Chen, surrounded by guards from species his people had enslaved. This is impossible, he said, and there was genuine confusion in his voice. We have ruled for 10,000 years. We are the supreme power in this region of space. How can this be happening? Chen looked at him with eyes that held no mercy and no hatred, only cold determination. You made a mistake, she said simply. You struck Earth. We have struck many worlds, hundreds of worlds. They all fell. They all submitted. Why are you different? Chen considered the question. It was a fair question. Other species had been older than humanity, more advanced, more numerous. Yet they had all fallen to the Valkyrie. Why had humans succeeded where others failed? Because we remember, she said finally. We remember every death, every city that burned, every child who never grew up. Other species, when they lost, they tried to move on. They tried to survive. They accepted their new reality. She leaned closer to the kneeling Dominarch. Humans do not accept. We do not move on. We remember. And we make sure that those who hurt us can never hurt us again. Dr. Amara Okonkwo had spent the days after victory documenting Velkari crimes. The evidence was overwhelming. Centuries of slavery, billions of deaths, the brain collection, the torture, the systematic destruction of entire cultures. What do we do with them? A Liberation Alliance leader asked during a council meeting. They deserve extinction for what they have done. It was a popular view. Many species wanted the Velkari wiped from existence. It would be fitting justice. Eye for an eye, death for death. Chen listened to the arguments. Then she spoke. If we destroy them, we become what they were, conquerors who kill those weaker than ourselves. That is not who humanity is. That is not what we fought for. Then what do you propose? Chen activated a holographic display showing the Velkari homeworld. Their fleet is destroyed. Their shipyards are gone. Their technology will be confiscated. They will be confined to their homeworld and its 2 moons. They will be allowed to live, to farm, to exist. But they will never again build weapons. Never again build ships capable of leaving their system. Never again threaten anyone. She looked around the room at the gathered species. We will watch them. We will maintain a permanent blockade. They will know every day for the rest of their history that they exist only because we allow it. That is not mercy. That is consequence. The Liberation Alliance voted. The decision was unanimous. The Velkari would not be destroyed. They would be contained. A living monument to the price of aggression. 5 years after the first attack on Earth, Dr. Amara Okonkwo stood before an assembly of species on a space station orbiting a neutral world. Representatives from over 100 civilizations filled the Great Hall. It was the founding ceremony of the Terran Accord, a new alliance dedicated to mutual defense and cooperation. We gather here today not as conquerors, Amara said, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. We gather as survivors, as liberators, as friends. She looked at the faces in the crowd. So many different forms of life, so many different histories, all united by a common experience of suffering under Velkari rule. Humanity did not seek the role we now hold. We did not want this power. We were attacked without warning, without mercy, without reason. 2 billion of our people died in a single day. We could have let that break us. We could have surrendered. We could have accepted the role of slaves. She paused. We refused. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. And now we stand here, not as masters, but as partners. The Terran Accord promises this. Any member species that faces unprovoked aggression will have the full support of the Alliance. No world will stand alone. No species will be conquered while humanity still draws breath. The vote to ratify the Accord was unanimous. 112 species pledged themselves to mutual defense. A new era had begun. 20 years later, on the Velkari homeworld, an elder stood before a group of younglings. The children looked at him with curious eyes, knowing nothing of the universe beyond their quarantined planet. Tell us about the stars, one youngling asked. Tell us about our empire. The elder was old enough to remember the empire, old enough to remember the conquest of Earth, old enough to remember how certain his people had been of their superiority. There are no more stars for us, the elder said sadly. There is no more empire. Why? The elder looked to the sky, where human patrol ships maintained their eternal vigil. For 20 years, those ships had circled the planet. They never landed. They never communicated. They simply watched. Because we made a mistake, little one. Long ago, we attacked a world called Earth. We killed many of their people. We thought they would submit like all the others. What happened? The elder was silent for a long moment. They did not submit. They fought back. They freed the species we had conquered. They came to our world and took away everything. Our ships, our weapons, our empire. The youngling looked confused. But we were strong. We were the rulers of space. We were, the elder agreed. But they were something else, something we did not understand, something we should never have awakened. What were they? The elder looked at the patrol ships again. They would be there forever. Generation after generation of Velkari would grow up under their watchful eyes, a permanent reminder of the price of aggression. They were human, the elder said, and they remember. They remember everything. And they have made sure we never forget. Far away on a rebuilt Earth, Admiral Chen Weilin retired to a small house overlooking the sea. She spent her days gardening and reading and watching the waves. Sometimes she was visited by old friends, sometimes by grandchildren, sometimes by historians who wanted to record her story. On her wall hung a single photograph. It showed Earth as seen from space, blue and beautiful and alive. Beside it was a simple inscription that she read every morning when she woke up. They struck first, we struck last. Never again. In the sky above her home, among the countless stars that humanity now traveled freely, life went on. Children were born. Ships were built. New worlds were explored. The galaxy was changed forever, and humanity had changed it. They had not asked for this destiny, but they had met it head-on. They had carried fire to the stars, and they had ensured that those who struck Earth first could never, ever rise again.